1, 2, 3. Laguna!
Porsche Files, auto enthusiasts, welcome to Marc Bixen Live. A video and audio podcast about Porsches, lifestyles, and all things motorsports. Hosted by Porsche expert, owner of Los Angeles' world-renowned Porsche repair shop, Redline Service. So let's kick back, shift gears, and get to the action. Here's your host, Marc Bixen.
So that car's in the factory museum. This one won a race called the Targa Florio, driven by a guy named Brian Redman. And I have a friend in the industry, and they were doing a dinner for Brian one night. And he asked if I can get him a car. He asked if I could get him a 917 to put on display. And I said, "What are you fucking nuts?" I said, 917? He said, "Well, it's for Brian, this and that." And I said, "I'll make some calls." So Jerry Seinfeld owns a few of these cars. So I called up the guy that handles Jerry's cars. I said, "Sam, we need a car for a party." And I explained it to him. He said, "Oh, we love Brian. Brian drove a lot of the cars we own, this, that, the other." So I said, "Well, can we get a 917? He says, "I got a better car than that." It's better than a 917? He says, "Yeah, we have the 9083 that Brian won the Targa Florio in 1970. And then they surprised me and him because they had the trophy from the race also. Yeah, so Brian was he was telling me one of the other drivers, Jackie Stewart or somebody, they had auctioned off a few of his driver's suits, and they went for huge money. Phil's helmet sold at auction last year for almost $194,000. So Brian heard about these old driver's suits, and he was a pretty famous driver. He heard about these driver's suits selling for good money. And so he went home and looked all over, and he couldn't find them, and said, "Honey, where are my old driving suits?" She said, "Oh, those things, those old things, I threw them out years ago." Well, it's like old race cars. Nobody knew they were going to be worth this kind of money. Wow. The car that Phil Hill won the world championship in 1961, at the end of the season, Enzo Ferrari crushed the race cars. He destroyed them because he didn't want anybody else to see them or find out his technology. That's how secret they are. So anything you see that looks like it today from Ferrari actually is a replica, because the Grand Prix cars he used to destroy, they didn't keep them. They just didn't want anybody to be able to see what he had. Welcome to Marc Bixen Live. Today we're going to talk about a wonderful event that I went to last weekend called the Velocity Invitational at Laguna Seca Raceway. Wow. Got a phone call from a friend. There's going to be some cool cars at Laguna Seca, some 917s and things. What are you doing for the weekend? Well, it looks like Velocity Invitational is going to become one of the fantastic, great car culture events at Laguna Seca over the next few years. It's going to be a later in the year version of Monterey Historics, etc. So just to run down a few cars that were there. We had Sterling Moss's 300 SLR. We had 3 Porsche 917-10s, including the George Follmer Championship car. We had Mark Donohue's 917-30, the iconic Porsche Audi Sunoco car. We had 2 Gulf Wire 917Ks in Gulf livery. So those of you who know those cars, we all know how iconic they are. So I guess those were some of the less expensive cars there. We had 3 Ferrari GTOs. Ferrari GTOs today are depending on the history of the car, probably 45 to 50 million and up. Reports say one sold for 70 million recently. We had 2 pontoon fender Testarossas, about $40 million each. Couple of birdcage Maseratis, 1 to 3 million, depending on race history. So as far as the vintage cars go, just a small sampling of the top-end cars. The manufacturers were there. We had Ford. Ford brought all 8 of the GTLM race cars. They bought the all-carbon GTLM prototype. They brought the 2 GTLM IMSA cars as well as the Le Mans cars and a couple of other liveries. So here we are at the Velocity Invitational Laguna Seca, And what can you say more than standing between two beautiful birdcage Maseratis? Two beautiful birdcage Maseratis. And behind it, two Fender Testarossa cars. What an amazing event. And we're so happy to be here. We're so proud that our buddy JoeAnselmo at Anselmo Motorsports invited us to come along to the show. And we're going to be taking a lot more video this weekend to give you guys a little bit of excitement. I know you can hear some really fun stuff in the back. We have F1 for you. We have McLaren Speedtails. We have Porsche 910s, RSRs, 917s. Yeah, wish you could all be here with us. Thank you. There was also your standard stuff. There was a race, Camaros versus Mini Coopers. We had about 8 Camaros in the race, about 40 early Mini Coopers. That was a blast to watch. One of our customers, Dave Hagen, he runs a 910 Porsche. Dave was up there with his son in a 356. We got to see our friend Paul Fainer from Racermagazine. Paul started Racermagazine, and he also helped our friend JeremyShaw with TeamUSAScholarship. And it was great to see Paul. He flew in. He was at Road Atlanta for Petite Le Mans on Thursday and Friday, and then flew in for this event for the weekend. So good seeing you there, Paul. Here we are at Laguna Seca again at the Velocity International, and we're having an exhibition of 917s and Gurney Eagles. So here's some of the most spectacular cars ever created on the track behind us, including 3 beautiful Gurney Eagles. And I mean, the smell, the sound, I wish all of you could be here with us today. You've got a plan to do this event in the future. So again, the Velocity International, Laguna Seca, look it up, check out the pictures, be here next year. George Fulmer, 917. Mark Donahue, 91730. 2 917Ks. John Wire. This is Gurney IndyCar. And here comes Gurney Grand Prix.
You were here with the little cycle cards.
Gunnar Jeanette in that car, and I'm not sure the driver here, but this is the some other cars. Well, a guy named ZackBrown happens to own McLaren. Zach decided to come up to the event and bring about 8 McLaren Formula One cars. So we had the 1998 Mika Hakkinen car, and what better than to have Mika there to drive it. We had Lewis Hamilton championship car. They brought the current 2-seater McLaren. So we'll show you a little bit of that, some stills and also some video. What an honor to stand in the garage while the mechanics are working on, warming up and testing the vehicles. You know, if they, in the future, when they do Velocity again, put it on your calendar as one of the great car events. McLaren also brought 4 of the McLaren Speedtails. Very rare car, beautiful, beautiful automobile. We had vintage Trans Am cars, and even Moto America, the motorcycle racing guys, they came down to do a display with Wayne Rainey there. So we had about 5 or 6 of the Moto America full-bore 1,000cc race bikes doing exhibition laps, as well as some of the Arlen Ness bagger Harley-Davidsons. Pretty interesting seeing a guy on a big Harley throwing it around Laguna Seca Raceway. So that was our weekend. I think we need to get on with a little bit of the product. Let's show you some eye candy. Well, we've got everybody's attention. Thought maybe we'd show a few items from our sponsor, Artify Life. So Artify Life is making these beautiful phone cases. We got a couple of different ones here. This one's a little worn because it's mine. So love those. They're also doing these really cool journals. People like writing journals. They've got them with lined pages and unlined pages, and a few of Katina's beautiful paintings on these nice journals. Great price point. They make wonderful gifts. ArtifyLifestyle.com. Thank you. So today, as a new feature, we're going to give you a Redline tech tip. So today's tech tip is about saving your beautiful black Porsche alloy lug nuts on the early cars. And there are a few different types of sockets, and the standard socket that people have, let's say a 19 millimeter for this, or 3/4, is a standard broach. As you can see, the lug nut doesn't go all the way down in the socket. So for Porsche application, you want to use what's called a deep broach socket. So they're readily available. We get ours from Snap-on, and there you go. Retains the socket all the way. Now, as most of you know, these lug nuts will wear over time. The black anodizing will come off and they'll get silvery. There are many sockets made with a plastic insert or an aluminum socket like that, but what happens is dirt gets embedded and eventually they will wear on the lug nut. So what we do at Redline, and many of the concourse guys do, is something very simple. A grocery store trash bag like this, and basically you're gonna use that as your insulator. Put your lug nut in all the way, and you have the plastic insulating the lug nut, and then you can use a new section of the plastic bag for each lug nut, therefore protecting your lug nuts. And instead of them turning silver maybe after putting them on 2 or 3 times, you may get 5 or 7 applications before they start to look non-concourse. Okay, so here we go. We're going to pull these lug nuts off, and these are actually a little bit marked up. So we'll take that plastic bag, place it over, and then put our lug nut on, make sure it's engaged fully, and boom. And that's simple. So that's our tech tip for the day. Hope that helps you guys out. Redline and Marc Bixen live. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for Marc's Gripes. Marc's Gripes. People that throw trash out of their car. Why? You packed it in, pack it out. Whatever you have in your car, you have food wrappers, cigarettes, cigarette packs. Hey, if you can keep it in your car when it's full, you can keep it in your car when it's empty. Take it home, throw it in a proper recycling container, and let's keep our highways clean. People that just don't grasp the concept. So a few years ago, I'm sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic going up to Malibu on Pacific Coast Highway. While we're sitting there, we're next to 2 girls in a late model Corvette, and they're smoking cigarettes, and as one of them throws her lit cigarette out the window, I'm listening to the girls, and they can't figure out why we're stuck in this horrendous beach traffic. Well, I informed them the horrendous beach traffic was because there was a brush fire a little further up the road, which was probably caused by some idiot throwing a cigarette out the window. So again, you know, think about the ramifications. When you're walking down the street and you see cigarettes on the street, you see cigarettes on the beach, at your favorite recreation area, come on, people, clean up. Clean up your trash, clean up behind you, have some respect for Mother Earth. Thanks. So here we are, day 3 of the Velocity International at Laguna Seca Raceway, Monterey, California. And, well, what better way than for us to start the day for everybody with vintage Formula One. So you're about to hear the roar. It's been a wonderful weekend. We see a lot of friends. My friend Derek Hill driving the Mercedes yesterday. We are just having a blast. Like I said yesterday, if you have any opportunity to attend the event in the future, come to Velocity. So here we go. Last race of the weekend. Vintage Formula One, everybody. Enjoy the shot.